All right, today we are diving into something called the Harvest Blueprint. It's a pretty stark warning about a potential financial collapse coming in 2026, but it also lays out a possible way to navigate through it.
So, what's this all about? Well, it all comes down to one very specific date, May 15th, 2026. You're going to want to circle that one on your calendar because according to this blueprint, that's the day the whole financial game could change. For good.
And the folks who've laid all this out, the ones we're getting this analysis from, are the Stewardship Finance Academy. They believe they've mapped out what an unavoidable financial storm is going to look like.
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of this thing. What is it about 2026 that makes it a deadline? Well, it's all about a massive, fundamental reset of our entire financial system.
Here it is, the linchpin. On that exact date, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's term is officially over. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, a guy's term is ending. Big deal, right? Well, according to this analysis, it's a huge deal. A seismic shift, really.
Because the moment Powell is out, that barrier, or at least the perceived barrier, between the Federal Reserve and the White House just dissolves. The theory here is that whoever comes next won't be independent. They'll be a yes man for the White House, ready to slash interest rates and fire up the money printers whenever they're told, no matter what that does to inflation.
Okay, so this is where things get kind of weird. It creates this paradox in the economy. The very things that are supposed to make us spend more money are actually doing the exact opposite. Let's dig into how that even works.
You know, Econ 101 says when the Fed cuts rates, borrowing gets cheaper, so people should go out and spend, right? And that should drive prices up. But look at what's really happening. Even with rate cuts, inflation has actually ticked down from 3% to 2.7%. That's not supposed to happen.
So yeah, it's a great question. With rates falling from a pretty nice 5% down to about 3.5%, why aren't we seeing this massive spending spree? Why isn't the economy just taking off like a rocket?
The answer, believe it or not, is just simple math. Let's say you've got 10 million bucks. What do? Option A, stick it under the mattress. Inflation eats 300 grand. Ouch. Option C, borrow money to invest. Well, you're already in the hole $500,000 before you've even made a penny. That leaves option B. You put it in the bank, earn 3.5%, and you actually come out ahead of inflation. It's the only move that makes sense.
And that is the number that gets stuck in everyone's head, 3.5%. It triggers this weird FOMO, a fear of missing out. People aren't thinking about buying a new car. They're thinking, man, I got to lock in this 3.5% rate right now before it drops to 2% or 1% or even lower.
So here's the crazy part. These rate cuts, which are supposed to pump money into the economy, are actually sucking it out. All that cash is flowing into savings accounts instead of stores because people are choosing to save, not spend. And that's just the quiet before the storm.
And if you think this sounds wild, well, it's because we've seen something like it before. To really get a handle on the danger here, we have to rewind the clock to the 1970s and what some call the original harvest. It was a devastating inflationary trap.
Back in '72, the Nixon administration leaned on the Fed to keep interest rates artificially low. And at first, wow, it looked like a miracle. The economy boomed. Real GDP shot up over 5%. It felt fantastic, but it was a house of cards. By 1974, the great inflation was here. Prices were skyrocketing, and the US dollar lost half of its value. Half?
And this quote just says it all. People had more money, but they were poorer than ever. Think about that. The numbers in their bank accounts got bigger, but what they could actually buy with that money had collapsed.
So you have to ask, why on earth would anyone risk that? Who actually benefits from destroying a currency? Well, who's the biggest debtor on the planet? The US government. For them, massive inflation isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's a way to devalue their own incredible debt.
And you know, this isn't just happening in a vacuum inside the US. It's part of a much bigger global financial war. And we are just now entering a brand new and very dangerous phase, the Great Capital Reversal.
Let's look at the moves on the board. Back in 2022, the Fed jacks up interest rates. Bam! That's an attack. It acts like a giant vacuum, sucking money from all over the world into the US. The Japanese yen got crushed, which allowed investors like Warren Buffett to borrow yen for next to nothing and buy up huge Japanese companies. Now, they tried a similar move on China, but China's defenses, their capital controls, held strong.
But now, the whole thing is about to go in reverse. The Fed is getting ready to cut rates, maybe all the way to zero. And when that happens, that giant wave of money is going to come rushing out of the US dollar, looking for a better place to be.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at the data. This chart shows China's holdings of US treasuries. Look at that drop. They are getting out fast. They've dumped so much US debt that they're at their lowest level since 2008. That's a huge problem for the dollar down the line.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty grim picture here. I know. But the goal isn't to scare you, it's to prepare you. And that brings us to the harvest-proof solution, the way to get through this.
This is it. This is the big question we've been building up to. With all this potential chaos swirling around, how in the world do you protect yourself and maybe even come out ahead?
The key isn't to try and guess what's going to happen next. It's to build what the Academy calls an unsinkable hull. It's like building a ship that's designed to float no matter how big the storm gets. It's a system based on rules that's designed to work whether the market is going to the moon or crashing to zero. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Now, you're probably asking, okay, but how do I build that? What are the rules? Well, that's exactly what this is about. Stewardship Finance Academy is running a free stock investment masterclass where they teach you the exact system for building that unsinkable portfolio. The spots are limited, so if this is something you're serious about, the registration link is right down there in the description.
So when you boil it all down, as we're heading towards this 2026 deadline, you've really got a choice to make. This isn't just another market downturn. This could be a total reset. The only question left is, will you be part of the harvest, or will you take the steps to be one of the few who actually